If you're not caught up with the info from my last video, this is a 2012 Honda NC700X. I picked it up for about $1,000. It does have some engine issue, which is why I got it so cheap. I'm hoping to dive into that in the near future. I've had this red Honda NC700, which is the same bike, just 2 years newer. I've had it for a few years now. It's been a fantastic bike to cruise around town on, but it's always been completely stock. When I saw this silver one, all these aftermarket parts just caught my eye. And I thought, man, these would sure look good on my red Honda. Normally they're extremely expensive. So I thought I'd switch those over, fix the bike, and then just sell it for a little bit of a profit. So in this video, I'm beginning the process of switching a lot of those parts over, starting with this trunk box and the saddlebags. And then I'll get to the wheels a little bit later. I started with the trunk box there, and then I have to lift up the passenger seat to get to the bolts for these side cases. Wasn't too much trouble, just a few extra bolts on the bottom there by the subframe, and then both sides came off pretty easily. So again, next up on the list was to do the wheels. I have these wheel stands I've had for my red Honda. You just line up these little hooks under the swing arm, kind of make sure the bike is somewhat centered, and then you just slowly lift it up, hoping it won't tip over. It's actually really stable when it's in place. The axle nut on this silver Honda was very tight. I don't even show all the footage, but that took a lot of effort to get off. Finally busted it loose with a crescent wrench. I'm embarrassed I didn't have a socket big enough for it. And then the axle's ready to start coming out. Super flattering angle of me pulling it the rest of the way. I love the tread, how deep the tread is on this silver Honda's new tire. Very gorgeous. I have taken the axle off of my red Honda a few times, so it wasn't too hard to bust loose. I'm just now realizing, as I'm editing this video, how much the bike was shaking while I was trying to get this axle off. I'm glad that stand held on tight because I was totally oblivious. The guy I bought the silver Honda from said he had the front and the rear sprockets replaced right before the bike started having engine issues. So I went ahead and peeled off the front sprocket cover there, and sure enough, they looked pretty darn new. So I used the impact gun to take the sprockets of both the bikes off. The sprocket on the left is from my red one, clearly seen a lot more use. The one on the right is the newer one. They have the same number of teeth, so I just went ahead and switched them. Here's the rear sprocket on my red one. A little bit worn, not too bad, but it's definitely not as good as this one, which is the silver rear sprocket, so I switched those as well. Alright, time to finish the swap. Taking my red Honda wheel, putting it on the silver one, greasing up that axle a little bit. One of the tricky parts is lining up that wheel just right so you can slide the axle into the axle blocks. So I like to use my feet to kind of prop it up and align it so it'll push through. And then I use my Stormtrooper accuracy to hit the axle with the mallet. Now it's time to do the same thing with a fresh wheel to my red Honda. Get everything lined and greased up. Now there's a metal wheel spacer that goes between the caliper and the actual wheel, if I remember correctly. And I forgot to put it in, which I didn't notice until I saw it sitting on the floor right about here. So I had to backtrack a little bit to pull out that axle and get that spacer in place. Didn't take too long. I'm glad I saw it because it would have been a bummer to get the bike all back together and go to try to ride it and find out the spacer wasn't where it was supposed to be. Although it doesn't show it, I did get the chains adjusted and aligned, so that was taken care of. Now it's time to set the bikes down and switch them around so I can do the front wheels. This is when it became apparent to me that I have no idea how to work the center stands on these big heavy bikes. And these are heavy. They're about like 470 or 80 pounds. So they're not easy to heave around, but people do it. I don't know why didn't have a hard time doing it earlier in the day. I think maybe because the garage floor is sloped one way, but I was wrestling with this thing for maybe 10 minutes. Oh, should I be standing on it? Off to the side, hold it here, hold it there. I had no idea. Finally, I found out with a good hold on the front and back and a good hard heave. Now, if you didn't see my last video, you wouldn't know that one of the reasons I'm excited to switch these front wheels is because my current front wheel has a bit of a wobble issue. On the silver bike, I used a wheel ramp to make sure the front wheel was propped up, and then I was all ready to crack loose the axle bolts on both the bikes, which had moved for a while, so they made a nice crack. The rest of the front wheel swapping went without a problem. After this, I didn't film it, but I swapped the windscreens because the silver Honda had a taller windscreen that I wanted to put on my red one. In the next video, I'll be looking into the silver Honda, attempting to diagnose whatever issues it might have. Who knows, it might be super minor or something serious I won't even want to touch. And I'll be filming from a different garage. We're actually buying a new house that has a 2-car garage that I'm super excited about. So make sure you stay tuned for that. And thanks for watching.